I am, just reading out the little bit of explanation that I have attempted on, Ralph Waldo Emerson's beautiful poem Fable, that is within the syllabus of class 7, 8, 9 possibly, and I have attempted or possibly up 9, 10, 10 like that. I for the talented readers, I have of a school or elsewhere, I have attempted that, keeping in mind that the advanced learners may be a bit benefited going through this brief analysis of mine. Okay, let me start. First, let me start on the description about the poet. Born on May 25, 1803, in Boston, Massachusetts, USA, Ralph Waldo Emerson emerged out to be a uniquely brilliant essayist, lecturer, and poet, accepted globally with next to none, refuting his terrible talent in realm of painting the inner essence of human values with the malign touch of flawless artistry. After having completed his schooling at the Boston Latin School in 1812, Emerson successfully passed his degree at Harvard College. The poet didn't feel restricted when he was busy in his professional involvement in the simple and fairly ordinary job of school teaching. Instead, he took the job of teaching to an entirely different height, always found busy in sharing his multifaceted ideas about the mysteries of human nature and its deep and profound interrelation with the mother nature. Emerson, by virtue of his great knowledge about the fundamental concepts of the Holy Bhagavad Gita and the Vedanta, reinvented and transcreated the theories of transcendentalism. He strongly reacted against anything that pertains to the domain of shameless slavery of the ruling class and the so-called hollow elites and clerics. He ruthlessly challenged the ideas of domination of the so-called upper sections of the society based on man-made caste system and shattered them into pieces by irrefutable logic based upon the core concepts of all the religions of the world. The poet precisely was for all those values that accept the equality of human being irrespective of all man-made social parameters and dogmas. Among his popular essays, mention may be made of the conduct of life, self-reliance, nature, etc. But above all other identities, Ralph Waldo Emerson stands reckoned principally as a unique poet to whom poetry meant the perfect synchronization of touchingly sensitive ideas and the technical excellence and craftsmanship. Amidst the cluster of poems spread over multi-different areas of thoughts, feelings, and values, we may take safe recourse to mention some of his major creations such as Fable, Fate, Eros, Deje, Brahma, etc. However, if we are to differentiate the poet from the other all-time greats in realms of poetry, we must keep in mind that Ralph Waldo Emerson happened to be that poet who, by virtue of the rarest qualities, could paint out with magical perfection the ultimate truth in realms of this infinite universe, comprising of everything, the little and the big, the finite and the infinite, the animate and the inanimate, the abstract and the concrete. Ralph Waldo Emerson, the poet, does really stand as the wonderfully mellowing, mysterious talent that the world will never ever be able either to forget or to refute. Introduction to the text. This poem of Ralph Waldo Emerson, that is Fable, got published in 1847 in context of the poet's constant search for exploring the hidden truth behind the delicate scheming of this mother nature. Fable, the short beautiful poem, delineates a graphical picture of the mutually interrelated matters of this global fraternity, wherein a smallest creature like the squirrel stands as important and as significant as that of the mighty mountain. Each one has to reciprocate and address the needs and deficiencies of others apart from their respective contributions to add to the beauties and bounties of this ever resourceful and evergreen natural world, comprising of the animate and the inanimate, of the living and the non-living, of the big and the small. Actually, the argumentative analysis of the squirrel precisely pinpoints the exact music of the creative spectacles of this ever-smiling Mother Earth. The substance, the mountain and the squirrel, the two principal characters of this poem, get trapped into tricky arguments, wherein the squirrel tries to convince the mountain that despite the fact that the mountain is immensely larger than it in respect of their physical size, it has its own role to play in the framing of a healthier and delicately beautiful art. The mountain mocks the squirrel for acting like a moral giant, lacking the understanding of the finer scheming of this universe, whereas the squirrel does speak straight to the mountain with critical mention of his failure to do a simple thing like cracking a nut. The squirrel does also point out with a note of ironic introspection that his so-called big brother himself can't just move at his will, the very thing he can do. The squirrel proves to be, an eye-opener by way of philosophizing the fact that both the big and the small in this world do have their own specific roles to the framing of this beautiful universe, as everyone is integrally linked to one inextricable ecosystem, or the absence of any single creature or any tiny particle disrupts and destabilizes the perfect balance and rhythm of this wonderful global system. The squirrel even goes further in obliquely referring that talent manifests itself in multi-different ways in multi-different spheres, wherein no single item of brilliance can either be magnified or be ridiculed, in that the Almighty, in this own scheming of the universe, has arranged everything in a rhythmic structure, wherein the slightest disturbance may upset the balance, leading to instability and chaos. To put it in the poet's language, all is well and wisely put. The squirrel also boldly asserts that he is least ashamed of his tininess. On the contrary, he feels proud of his natural, lively, and energetic nature, something that the mountain does terribly and awfully lack. At the same time, the squirrel, like a perfect, honest character, feels respectful of the mountain's gigantic size with its potent ability to carry forests on its back. So the squirrel finds no reason to be either disgraceful or shameful of its smallness, in that smallness he introspects proves to be only an unreal concept, because when we consider something small in one particular specific way, we often tend to be blind to the other aspects of the thing that, when looked at deeply, tends to be infinitely greater and larger compared to the apparently bigger things. Small is beautiful. We can assert in that smaller seconds taken together build up a year, or smaller particles of soil taken in its entirety to build up this larger universe. So, the squirrel, by loudly accepting his own smallest size in respect of the mountain, actually makes a bold assertion of its infinite spectrum and its inner perfection, something that is too deep and too profound, too much serene and too much simple. Central idea. Ralph Waldo Emerson, the poet, in his poem Fable, dwells upon the fundamental aspects of the creative rhythm and delicately dynamic music behind the composition of this ever-changing, ever-revolving, ever-expressing, evergreen art. That is to say, everything in this universe has to play its own specific part into the making of a beautiful global world without destabilizing the role of the other, rather without attempting to diminish or ridicule others' contributions. The big one, like the mountain, and the small one, like the squirrel, taken together, touch upon the musical ecstasy of all kinds of success and perfection. That is to say, no one in isolation of the other can reach the destined goal of contributing to the fundamental creative symphony of this vast universe. Even an atomic particle can't be forfeited or sacrificed in preference of the other, however spectacular or sublime that may be. We do have to comprehend and understand the simple thing that a child comes to this earth with God gifted talents that differ only in realms of variety and splendor. By fable, we mean a short story with significant moral lesson. I am now switching over to the significance of the title portion. By fable, I repeat, by fable we mean a short story with significant moral lesson. It delivers messages to the society through certain talking characters, mythical, animate, inanimate plants, etc., with a view to rectifying the mistakes and blunders of the people around us. Here in this poem, the two major characters, the squirrel and the mountain, find themselves drawn into a heated argumentation, wherein the mountain seeks to belittle the squirrel by way of stamping him as a little pig, whereas the squirrel, like a cool, calm, wise person, makes attempts to convince the mountain that everyone in this large universe, be a small creature or a large childlike existence, has their own respective domains of activities, and if all, without exception, do complement each other's areas of weaknesses and strengths by discharging their own responsibilities and commitment, then this world might turn both beautiful and wonderful in a big way. The conclusion of this poem comes to light by way of delivering meaningfully significant moral lessons meant not simply for the learners but for all the people across different formats of the social structure. So, when applied to the context of the society, the title stands thematically correct and structurally balanced. Finally, the ironical and playful humorous touch implied and implicated in the title of the poem does really turn the poem acceptable to everybody, with next to none refuting its message or mesmerizing poetic touch. So, from all different possible spectacles, I repeat, so from all different possible spectacles, when judged critically, the title appears to us not only acceptable but also meticulously correct and just. Now I'm switching over to the last portion of this brief analysis, critical appreciation of the poem in a very precise mode. Ralph Waldo Emerson, an American poet, in his exquisitely brilliant creation, Fable, makes a valiant attempt to pinpoint the key factors behind the harmonious coexistence of different creatures in this large global world, wherein each one has to discharge his responsibilities, thus impoverishing the activities of others' areas and domains. None in this world can be ignored. Rather, one's existence and success depends on other. So the poet, through a bit of introspective philosophizing, seeks to assert that the core thought of the poem stands embodied in line of the poem, talents differ, all is well and wisely put. The poet also betrays his magical skill as a master painter by way of juggling with the rhyme and rhythm, fusing the ideas and structure, balancing in a perfectly organized manner. At times, the poet tends to be silent spectator of the panoramic beauties of the nature. At times, he, like a wise philosopher, explains the inner relations of the different objects of this world, keeping him in an unbiased, neutral platform. The poem, comprising of just 19 lines, does have clear variation and integration in realms of meanings and technical aspects. The opening two lines maintain an easy, lucid rhyme, but the next lines don't maintain that rhythmic, sequential pattern. But in spite of that, the meaning comes out from within an apparently closed structural variety. And that's why Ralph Waldo Emerson is reckoned as a supremely talented artist who extracted meanings and ideas from his own interactions with man and nature around him. So, the poem may be taken as our poet's conscious journey from the aura of confusingly chaotic darkness to the realms of crystallized music of mellifluous light, wherein the meaning proves to be the automatic output of the inputs in the form of the different aspects of nature and their creatures. In one word, to sum up, however, in one word, however, we may sum up the entire message of the poem to put it in John Keats's, fine words. Beauty is truth, truth beauty. That is all in on earth, all it need to know. That's all.